In this video, you're going to learn how you can use an AI-generated backdrop to film a cool shot like this. Everything you'll see in this video was shot in our living room in front of a green screen. Using an AI-generated backdrop like this could be helpful in music videos, short films, and commercials. This video is not going to focus on post-production techniques like keying out the green screen. Instead, we'll focus on lighting, camera placement, and a tool to manage your lighting on set. So come along as I show you how we made these two awesome shots using AI-generated backgrounds. Let's talk about choosing an AI-generated background. For this video, we used Midjourney. We feel like the images it can generate look so cinematic. We love the lighting. We realized early on that we needed to make sure that there were no people in the background. Also, big windows on one side of the image is nice because that can serve as our key light. The images AI generates are not perfect, and the closer you look, the worse it gets. Like, what are all these silver things doing on these tables? What are they? None of the words make sense, but if it's kind of blurry, it looks cool. Okay, next let's talk about camera placement and lenses. First, a lot of these backdrops that are generated are wide angle. Anything is possible in the world of AI, but in real life, wide-angle lenses can never achieve a very shallow depth of field. So if we want to blur the background, first we need to zoom up on it, so we can mimic the look of a telephoto lens, which can have a lot more bokeh. For our first setup, I chose to film on a 50mm lens. With a 50mm lens, our subject will look natural against this backdrop. The next thing you need to keep in mind is camera height. If the camera is too high or too low, it will be impossible to make this scene look realistic. Now you're just going to have to eyeball this. First, think about how high the camera probably was that took this fake AI picture. Next, put your camera in roughly the same position. Since we're zooming in so much on the background, you can adjust the background until it looks natural to your eyes. Now let's talk about live monitoring. To make sure everything was coming together correctly, we used this Camlink 4K, which converted our HDMI signal from the camera into a web camera signal. We used a program called Wirecast in the laptop so we could do a live green key removal. OBS, which is a free software, has a similar feature. Monitoring the video like this really helped us to accomplish realistic lighting. So let's talk about lighting. What's important here is to have a room big enough so your subject can be about 10 feet away or more from the green screen. This is important because the green light bouncing off the green screen can ruin your image if you're too close to the green screen. It's really about two-zone lighting, which I covered in this previous video. The most important thing to remember when you're lighting a green screen is to make sure that it's lit very evenly so that every part of the green screen has the same luminance value. To accomplish this, we used two Aperture 300D2s with these 1 foot by 4 foot light boxes from Aperture. Now it's time for the creative stuff. What's so great about these AI backgrounds is they're so cinematic, the lighting is beautiful, so obviously we wanted to recreate that lighting for our subject so they would match the environment. We looked at these big windows on the left-hand side, and because there's warm light coming out of them, we decided to clamp up this 20 by 20 foot unbleached muslin. Then to illuminate it, we used these two Aperture Novas. The reason why we used the Novas is because they're color changeable. That way we could dial in the white balance just right to match the color of the windows. After that broad stroke, we decided to focus on her eye light and her face. To illuminate her face with a warm glow, we placed this light about 45 degrees from her face. It's a 4 foot by 4 foot white beadboard, and on the stand pointing up is a 300X. That way we could change the white balance to match the color of the windows. It gives a soft light, and it's a relatively cheap, soft light setup. Next, we noticed portions of the AI background had a hard, bright light hitting them, like the sunlight was streaming through the windows. So to mimic that lighting on Lynn, we decided to use the 600X with a narrow cone. We positioned it behind her to give her this strong rim and to make the table brighter. To mimic the light from this back window, hitting Lynn's shoulders and back of her head, we used the Amaran T4C. It was placed right behind her above the camera frame. This light helped to wrap that backlight around her so it could hit her left shoulder and the back of her head. As a cinematographer, it was interesting working with this AI background because the look was set for me, and all I had to do was mimic the light for the subject. I really enjoyed it, and I think the results are pretty good. This next setup was a little bit moodier, and it had some fun lights in the background. Also, we shot this setup on a 24mm lens to match the perspective of the background. For fun, we put this Nova on the ground and shined it on the green screen. You can see the difference here. The green light shining on the green screen did make it quite a bit greener. Okay, let's talk about the rest of this lighting. Remember that big 20 by unbleached muslin? To mimic these cool windows on the left side, we just changed the white balance of the Novas to be very, very cool. That way the ambient light in the room matched the color of the windows. Next, because we didn't want the shot to be as high key, we turned off the 300x bouncing into the 4x beadboard. Because the AI photo had these warm, practical lights, we imagined that there would be a warm glow coming behind the subject. So we dimmed down our 600x and repurposed it. We just pointed it towards the ceiling this time and it bounced off a bit of this white fabric. Next, we had some fun with some colored lights. On the back left side of Lynn, you can see this bluish green light hitting her face and her shoulder. On the right back side of Lynn, you can see this orange light coming from these practical lights on the wall. And above her head is this red sign. To accomplish this, first we used the Aperture T4C and we dialed in the color to match the color of the picture. Next, we used an Aperture MC and dialed in the color orange for her right side. And then above her head, we used this cool boom arm and magnetically attached an Aperture MC and colored it red. Altogether, I think each one of these little lights immerses her in the scene, and this was a really fun setup.